Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and after a shock 3-0 defeat yesterday for Atlanta FaZe up against the Minnesota Rokkr, Arcitys explaining exactly what might be holding FaZe back right now, why they seem to have fallen off so significantly, especially compared to their Cold War days. But meanwhile, Dashy is also revealing that he doesn't buy the idea that Scump is going to step away next season. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Lots of great support yesterday and the past few days as well. Really appreciate it. Let's just dive straight into things. Of course, like Temp, he's not having the greatest time right now. Thought it was rather interesting the comment that Paris had actually made on the flank last night, that he's heard that Temp tried to bench himself, he tried to get out of here, and you know, for whatever reason Paris haven't let that happen or allowed that to happen, or they're not going to try and bring anyone new in. Who knows what they're going to try and do. Of course they are completely chalked. We'll look at the standings here in a second, not just this stage but also overall, and like, wow, do we have some storylines coming up here. This just to mention real quick though from Blast, right, because if you guys remember this name from, I mean, he was on Los Angeles Guerrillas actually back in Modern Warfare at the start of that year. Since he's moved to Warzone and stuff, he's actually planning to come back into the challenger scene, thanks to Carly Garland, you know, for pointing this out in the replies. This also he mentions any AM team is willing to take a chance on a flex, so Blast might be making the return. Blast and Decimate were kind of a duo that goes a little bit back, to wonder if they'll kind of team up. I'm not really sure what's happened to Decimate, to be honest, because after he was kicked from Paris Legion, like, where has he actually gone? So maybe that could be a potential duo down there. This also thought was rather funny. Of course, we're going to talk about Solenners here in a few minutes time, because they have a massive matchup for them coming up later on this evening. But you know, Paulx kind of gives his top 3 search and destroy maps of all time. Warhawk, I think that's definitely a good pick, underrated one for sure. Standoff Black Ops 2, and then he throws in Terrorism Advanced Warfare, right? And Crim was like, wow, I thought this guy was really onto something with the first 2 maps. Then he brought in Terrace, S&D. What's going on there? Like, Terrace was certainly a weird one. The verticality in the map was absolutely out of control. Pretty sure it's that map based in Santorini, if you guys know what I'm talking about, from Advanced Warfare. But yeah, bit of a mess for Search and Destroy, I thought. There was, I think like Neslo has a pretty famous highlight clip on that map, as does Scump and stuff in some of these 5k, 2ks that were going on back in the day. Shame we don't get to see that type of stuff anymore. But these are the current season standings. So FaZe are still first technically, but they've played 4 games this split, and Optic have only played 3. So if Optic win both their remaining series up against New York and the Los Angeles Thieves, they will take over the number 1 seeds. As I've said before, not sure if you really necessarily need the number 1 or the number 2 seed here, because you don't know who you're going to play at champs. It's either going to be the 8th or the 7th in that situation, and who really knows what's going to be the harder matchup there, because theoretically LAG could end up 8th or 7th or whatever. You don't really know where you want to be here. But well, interestingly of note actually, Los Angeles Thieves are now officially in the bottom 4. These are the 4 teams that don't make champs. Subliners of course have a lot of work to do, as do LA Thieves. But yeah, after Toronto's resurgence, Minnesota's resurgence most certainly. I don't know what I'm going to say Surge have necessarily had quite the same resurgence as the other teams have had, but you know, no doubt that these teams and kind of this 3 maybe plus the Subliners looking better than the teams above them right now, at least from 3rd through 5th. So definitely creates a very interesting dynamic. It's super packed around here, but Thieves need to get these 10 points on the board that they can. Now these are the current standings. I thought I'd mention this actually because Minnesota Rokkr, they're 5-0 here series counts, 15-3 map counts. Optic possibly, if they win both their series against Thieves and New York, they could potentially match Minnesota, not just on series count but also on map count. So it will come down after series count to map count. I think maybe first of all it would come to head-to-head, but of course they're not going to play each other. Therefore, if theoretically, which is possible, Optic and Minnesota are tied on map count, then the number 1 seed will go to the team that had the harder strength of schedule. So the way I believe it would work is that you'll look at Minnesota and look at the 5 teams they played, and then average up their final placings of the teams that Minnesota played, and then you look at the teams that Optic played and average up the final placings of the teams that Optic played, and the team with a higher number wins effectively. So the team with a harder, theoretically, strength of schedule will get the number 1 seed. I believe that's how it goes, and if that's tied, then I believe they play a one and done playoff match actually to determine the number 1 seed. That'd be pretty spicy. It's possible again, but it's rather unlikely to happen. But these top 4 have solidified their spot in the winners bracket. Paris Legion, of course, are chalked, but anything can happen with these other ones. And yes, this Boston Thieves series today is absolutely immense in determining who might start in the losers bracket, because look at the map counts of Boston and Thieves right now, not good at all. So whoever gets 3 losses here out of this series has a very decent chance of starting in losers, which it would not be good for Thieves, especially given the points that they need to accrue very quickly indeed. Let's dive into the FaZe series now. I thought this was kind of remarkable actually. The attack was straight up drawn. This guy was absolutely out of control in this. I think it was the Search and Destroy. There are a few funny replies to this one, even Nick Merckx comes back at this one. But yeah, this guy was obviously absolutely turned. But still, I mean, as Parasite says, Attach was like honestly unbelievable that series. He had like a 1.5. That game when he had like a 2.7 or something crazy, 37-15. And then as well, Parasite points out, Attach was only traded 10 times in that series. Like that's insane. At map 1 he was traded only 4 times. I believe the way that works is when you get a kill, do you die within the next 5 seconds? If you do, that's considered a trade, and if you don't, then of course, well, it's not considered a trade. And that barely happened to Attach. He was practically untradeable that series, and he pretty much dominated it, right? Priestahh took over the Search and Destroy. He went 10-1, but FaZe got bodied game 1. I mean, he had a 2.5 game 1, and game 2 as well was a 6-1, and then the final map was a map that you really can't afford to lose if you're FaZe when you had a, well, seemingly an unlosable situation on that Berlin control. These, of course, the overall series stats if you guys missed it last night. But, of course, FaZe are trying to explain why do they fall short like this. We said yesterday that in this game, they don't seem to be as good individually as they were previously, but also, of course, not too long ago, they made that role change, right? Cellium became the main AR, Arcitys became the flex, and really since then, things haven't really worked out too well for them, right? Yes, they made finals of back-to-back majors, but it didn't happen for them at the Pro-Am, right? And this time, they're not going to go into this major as favourites either, whereas last year, they went into every single event as favourites. And, well, some explanation from the guys. I mean, as aBeZy says, GG to Minnesota lost 3-0. Interestingly, I thought, right, that he didn't kind of open the reply to this one. I guess he doesn't want the NPCs in there, and you can't necessarily blame him, but I thought that was interesting. As Simp says, you know, GG's Minnesota lost 3-0, got to get it together, he says. It's not really too much insight, of course. Cellium says GG's Rokkr lost 3-0, gotta be better. Bounce back MC goes Dashy. But Arcitys actually gave some insight into what he's thinking behind the scenes right now. Not comfortable at all on the map, got to fix this issue, need to find my role again, and find us again as well. Sorry, you know, to the fans or whatever. So rather interesting, right? Because Arcitys, in the series they lose, like usually Cellium has like a 1.0 even if they lose. And it's the other guys that are kind of struggling a little bit. This series, Cellium didn't turn up, neither did the rest of the guys, and they got bodied, especially in map 1, map 2. Map 3, as I say, they probably should have won, but, you know, still, they probably would have lost one of the next couple of maps anyway, the way they were playing in that series. So Arcitys reckoning that his role right now, he's just not comfortable in it, right, which isn't necessarily a good sign, given the fact that you're, you know, a few games into Major 3, like, it's not that long until we've got the qualifiers for Major 4, and of course, the Major 3 is coming up very soon. Champs isn't too far around the corner. They've got to turn things around. This was the other thing. GG's Minnesota got rolled, getting effort gaps. This is quite an interesting turn of phrase, actually, I thought, from Arcitys here, because basically what this implies is, right, that other teams are putting more effort in, trying harder, putting more time in practice than FaZe are. I think last year it was kind of clear, at least for most people, they really enjoyed last year's game, it seems. They were putting in probably more time than anyone, and in this game, it doesn't seem to be the case, right? Arcitys reckons that they're not putting as much effort into some of these other teams. Optic, of course, are known to work really hard. I mean, Formal said it on the podcast just the other day, that he's, you know, constantly impressed at how hard Rambo has them working, but of course, they've got their own work ethic as well, but yeah, right now, FaZe potentially not putting in as much grind as some of the other teams are, and probably part of that is to do with the fact that they don't really enjoy this game anywhere near as much as some of these other teams do. Optic, of course, you know, they know the game isn't great from a competitive perspective, but they still seem to enjoy it, whereas the likes of Simp and aBeZy, I think honestly kind of the key to this team's downfall in a way has been the fact that Simp and aBeZy, we're no longer having the conversation as, okay, who's the number 1 player in the game? Is it Simp or is it aBeZy? This time it's a very different story, and that as an SMG duo, they've kind of fallen down the pecking order a bit, right? And when they don't turn up, when they don't play well, when aBeZy isn't getting these crazy first bloods, like they honestly don't look particularly good. And maybe that's because these guys aren't putting as much time into the game as they used to, or this game just doesn't suit them so well, or they're not putting as much time into kind of adapt to this style of gameplay that they need to, because last year seemed to suit them so well. Very interesting set of situations, right? And as I say, since their role change happened and Arcitys has gone to the flex, Cellium to the main AR, not really sure that's changed that much, but really since this date, things have kind of been going a little bit downhill for FaZe. So, like, you know, you'd never count this team out. It's always a team that when they turn up and click, they can beat anyone. But especially with a defeat like that, it doesn't seem like they're as scary as, you know, they have been for most of this year and last year most certainly as well. And this also was kind of incredible, right? Just to show how dominant FaZe have been for quite some time now. But at the last time FaZe as an organization got 3-0'd was back in 2020 in June, the grand finals of the Paris homestand. So, like, that's the thing. Even though this roster of 4 with Simp, Cellium, aBeZy, and Arcitys never got 3-0'd ever as a 4, it seems to be quite some time since FaZe got 3-0'd by a team other than Optic, as, you know, Carla points out here in the replies. Got to talk about Optic real quick, though. Of course, they play later on today. This skill was absolutely out of control. But, of course, Scump has said the last few days, Modern Warfare, right? It's coming out, Modern Warfare 2. He's not kind of unsure whether he wants to play this year again. He kind of does this every year. He kind of hints that, okay, maybe it's time for him to step away. Like, and usually he'll come back anyway, because he certainly seems keen to keep competing. The Bricks kind of points out this clip, which I'll share for you guys in a second from one of Hex's vlogs a few days ago, that Dashy was, like, basically gassing up Scump and saying, look, this guy, he's 27, he's the oldest SMG in the league. He's still absolutely flying at these kids. And, you know, of course, as Scump said a few days ago, please be a great COD. He wants his COD to be good. I'm sure he wants to keep competing. And Dashy's like, look, I'm not going to buy any of this BS. I reckon Scump's staying around.
Right here, I just like getting hard.
Yo, was Seth was flying at these dudes? He's 27, dude.
Seth is flying at these guys. Absolutely no respect channeling. I like it though.
He's 27. Do you think he should be exerting
he should come back
himself?
next year. He should play one more year.
Wait, what do you mean? See, now people are gonna think that he had already made his mind up of not coming back next year.
It's just like he's leaving little hints, but I know he's coming back. Like, he's coming back. Trust me.
How's it going?
Good.
Having a good time?
Great time.
turning up, man.
I know.
Did you already sign your new contract?
Not yet.
Why? Did you hear? Did you hear what Dashy was saying about you?
What?
He said that you were just pushing at these dudes, and I'm like, damn, at 27?
I'm running at people.
Yeah, you're running
I'm running
over.
it down. I'm going.
What do you think? He said that you might come back next year.
Yeah, it's a possibility. See if the game's dog.
But he hit. Wait, what? Easy, man.
What?
You might get fined.
No, I'm talking about next year's game, not this year. This year's game is great.
Dude, that's actually a loophole that I did not know that you knew how to go through.
Nah, yeah, I'm talking about next year. The game's not even out. They can't. This game's awesome.
So I most certainly hope he does, of course. We've got him at least for the rest of this season. And of course, Optic right now are probably going to go into the major as the favourite unless they lose one of their next couple of series or both their next couple of series. Then Minnesota might be favourites out of nowhere, which would be quite something. But yeah, tonight we do get Batman versus Fatman. They're playing the subliners the first time this season that we have seen Optic versus New York, which has obviously been a long time coming, but it is finally happening. These are then the 4 games of the day. So FaZe get the chance to kind of extend their point advantage at the top of the table. But still, as I said, Optic do play 2 series after FaZe's one, so they have a chance to take that number 1 seed away from them for the World Championship, of course, and they still, of course, are fighting for the number 1 seed just for this particular major split to try and overtake Minnesota Rokkr. But FaZe play Guerrillas. It's tough really to look past FaZe having a bounce back here. Usually, like we've seen the last couple of years, in general, when FaZe lose a series, they come with the fire in the next one. Not always the case, of course, but I just don't think LAG have anywhere near enough to potentially take down FaZe in this series. It could happen, right? Who knows? But I think FaZe are going to bounce back. They should be able to handle business here. Rokkr, I think, are a much better team than Guerrillas right now. Ravens Ultra, I think the Ultra right now are looking like a top 3, top 4 team in the game at minimum, to be perfectly honest. I think they should handle business with London. They're looking pretty lost lately. So FaZe, I don't know, FaZe both and Ultra 3-1. I don't know. I love a 3-1 fashion. This is the big series though to me. Thieves versus Boston Breach. And in fairness, the last series is a banger as well, theoretically. But yeah, this third series is incredibly important because as I said, both of these teams have bad map counts right now and they're both 1 and 2. So the loser probably starts in losers, not guaranteed, but it's very likely or very plausible, especially because if Thieves lose this, they play Optic on Sunday, which basically means, you know, not guaranteed, but they could well be 1 in 4 if they lose this series. I think I am going to take Thieves though. I really don't know. I think I might take Thieves 3-2 or 3-1. I think they might be able to turn it around. I'm going to back Shane to somehow have some sort of honeymoon effect with this period or with this team since he joined just recently as a kind of additional coach of the team. So I'm going to take Thieves and then Optic. I think you kind of can't look past them in the last series. There's always a chance of the subliners win this one, but I feel like Optic will handle business here. They've been looking great with Preludes, and I can't say I've been convinced by the consistency of the slaying across the board by the subliners as of late. I feel like against a very slay heavy team like Optic, they might just get exposed in some of the respawns. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, tell us your YouTube gods this is a good video. I just like you should see it as well. And I hope grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.